The other big thing that we spent a lot of time on with my grandma is, I mean, a lot of stuff, but I can't share it all with you today. But she talked about prayer, and how ironic that here we are at the prayer breakfast. I think this is frankly so ironic in a way that I'm here, because I went to St. Ben's, and while there, my major was partying, 101, and then I advanced really quick to 203, and then I was even in some advanced classes as a freshman. And the dean of students there was Sister Mary Mark, and let's just say she wasn't fond of me, okay? And I remember one day she said to me, you know, Renee, you got to stop all this. She said, all you do is chat, 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 chat. She said, why don't you buckle down? If you applied yourself, you could really go somewhere someday. And she goes, and if you ever think you are going to make money flapping that mouth of yours. So it kind of makes me chuckle. I feel like I've kind of come full circle. So anyway, my grandma talked about prayer. And I have learned so much about prayer, probably more in the last 5 or 10 years. You know, you learn a lot about prayer when someone's dying. My kids are all adopted, and we were all there when they were all born. And so we've got experiences with birth parents and life and choosing life. And so you learn a lot about prayer there. And in the last few years, well, back up. My granny, when she was talking about prayer, she looked directly over at my grandma, 83, remember? And she said, you know, Irene, that was my grandma's name. You know, Irene, I have been praying a lot for you. She said, I don't really want you out on the roads this coming, it was 4th of July. I don't really want you out on the road the 4th of July, because I'm going to have to pray extra hard. She was kind of selfish, my great-granny. Anyway, she said, I'm going to have to pray extra hard, and you know what? I don't think you need to go. And my grandma's like, Mom, please. I drive myself all over. Now, she had just driven herself home from Arizona. I clearly think she can drive herself 2 hours to the lake. She goes, it's a holiday weekend. The traffic's going to be bad. And she kept riding my granny and riding my granny about this. And about this thing that she's going to have to pray so hard for her safety. And my granny looked at her, and she goes, Mom! I am 83 years old. I think I'm old enough to make my own decisions. Oh my gosh, I have never laughed so hard. My sister and I are just kneeing each other under the table. And my great-granny looks over at us and she goes, like no one could see her. It was so obvious. She goes, you know, you never stop being a mom. It was absolutely precious. And being a mom, and I've learned a lot about prayer in the last, like I said, several years. But probably no place have I learned more about it or from someone in the last 2 years. About, well, almost to the date, 2 years ago, my middle daughter got diagnosed with a bone tumor. And it was all this hoopla and running around from doctor to doctor. Finally, they immediately sent her down to the cities and said she needs to have this kind of surgery. And it all seemed like a whirlwind. We had my mom's whole birthday club praying on it. We had all the sisters at St. Benedict's praying, and I'm sure the presentation sisters are probably praying too. And anyway, she had surgery, and the first time she went into surgery, she looked at me, and the parent could go in, and I thought, and this is this kind of, she looked so little, and she's laying on this gurney, and there's all this stainless steel, you know, whipping around in there, and we're waiting for the doctor to come in, and her doctor was phenomenal. He was the head of the pediatric oncology, what do you call bones? I can't think, what is it? Orthopedic, yeah, orthopedic, yeah, that's it. Anyway, and this guy was phenomenal. His name is Dr. Closey, and talk about a team guy. he came into the room and he said, "Well, is our celebrity in here?" Now, we thought for a minute there really was someone in the room. So we're all kind of looking around. And he looks at my daughter, and she's laying down. He said, "Yeah, here she is." And he looks, and she goes, "Me?" And he goes, "Yes, her. This is our celebrity." He said, he called her by name, so they all knew she had a name. He said, "This is Elizabeth." He said, "She is 10 years old, and she plays football on the all-boys football team. And it's our job to get her playing football again." So he made her feel like she was queen for the day. And right before they put her out, the anesthesiologist says, "Now, Sugar Pie, should we count your boyfriends and you go to sleep?" And she smiled, "I don't have any." "Well, you won't have to count far, you know." And I said, "Do you think we should pray before?" She goes, "Yeah, Mom, we got to pray again." And I said, "I'll pray." And she goes, "No, I can do it." Now she's 10. And I remember she slumped her little body up, and she sat up and she said, "Well, dear Lord," and she wanted everyone to hold hands, but you can't because everyone's sterile. And she just put her hands up and she just said, "You know, dear Lord, thank you so much for all these people in this room. Thank you for their families, for letting them come and do this work so I can get better. I thank you so much for steady hands. I pray for all the kids on my cancer floor that they will be better." And she said, "And mostly, God," she said, "I just really pray that if you could just let my mom and dad know that if something happens, I know where I'm going." Now, if you didn't know about prayer, just let's say you didn't know much about it. You were pretty grounded in that moment. And I left the room, and she fell asleep, and of course I held it together until I walked out, and then, you know, mothers, "Wah!" And the doctor came out and he said, "You know, you have an incredible kid." And I said, "Yeah, I know." He said, "No, she's an incredible kid." And he said, "You know, she taught me about prayer today." He said, "I'm a believer, and I think I'm a prayerful guy, but I know I'm going to be a lot more prayerful because of that." And she's doing great. She's had 2 surgeries. She's had 2 surgeries and 2 bone grafts, and we just went in and she's got A-OK. So she's doing great, so that's good. So today when you leave, I would encourage you to laugh. Laugh throughout the rest of the lunch. Laugh and share your own stories. Be passionate, compassionate. Find some kindness. Do something kind for somebody. Be a mentor to a child. Pray with someone. And you may not have your land, but when I get to my land, you know, there's this quote by Dorothy Perkins, and I love it, and I always paraphrase from it, but when I get to my land, first of all, I want to be used up. I don't want to have a thing left, because God has given us these incredible gifts. I don't want to get to my land with anything else. But when I get there, I want to go out and I want to be screaming and a kicking and a shouting and a hooting and hollering, and I want to be wrinkled. It's okay if I'm wrinkled. And I want to skid in broadside, just like she says. And when I get there, I want to say, "Now, God, that was an incredible ride." I wish you all an incredible ride. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you, Sister Andrea. Thank you.